I'm a little embarrassed, actually. I'm not used to being recognized like this. It's very nice, and it's definitely an honor. I do appreciate it very much. I'm used to being up front and sometimes being the spokesperson, but that's easy to do when you're not talking about yourself, so it's a little difficult to be talking about me.
What did you think when they approached you and said, we're having this evening and we want you to participate, and here are the reasons why?
I was very honored. I'm very honored to be part of Dave Carroll's presentation that he's putting together, and I think it's just really great. I hope that it has so much success. It's really important, I think, to recognize the first responders that are out there, the firemen, the paramedics, police, 911 dispatchers. They all do such a great job, and sometimes they are unsung, so Dave's song sings for them, and that's really wonderful. And it's just a great thing that he's doing.
That's correct. Sometimes we forget that emergency responders are out there, sometimes putting their personal safety at risk, to protect the public and keep them safe at night. So it's kind of nice, and you'll hear tonight some of them are just, honorary or ordinary heroes in so much as, they just give back to the community. And I know that's a big part of us with the North Bay Police Service. We encourage our members to give back, and that could be as simple as coaching or mentoring youth in our community, or being involved on a board, or sitting on a service club, or being involved in supporting a charity group. So, I think the everyday hero is sometimes forgotten, and that's good that we're honoring both tonight.
When you look at that, it's been a busy week for first responders. Actually, a busy 2 weeks. We lost 2 volunteer firefighters in Listowel. We had the explosion in Woodstock, and here right in the city we've had two deaths to fire. How important is it to reflect on that and thank those folks?
Yeah, I think it's really important, and Kate, we say all the time that we're very fortunate to be emergency responders in North Bay area. Our communities are very supportive of us, and so I think this is special tonight because we will see that outpouring of support for people that are involved in emergency response. So police, fire, and ambulance. We're very much partners, and we certainly have some strong partners in this community. Absolutely, there's no downside to this. It's a fundraiser as well, so it's supporting a number of charitable causes. But I think it's important sometimes just to remind emergency responders that people are out there and very supportive of what they do each and every day.
It's nice to have the city itself, the Chamber of Commerce, and all of the first responders here to say thank you to people who do help out. We're not the only ones. There's lots of people who do help out. But it's also nice to be able to see the first responders and be able to say thank you to them, because they do everything that keeps us safe at night and during the day, and I don't think they get recognized enough either.
Now, you're not a first responder, but take me back to that day and tell me a little bit about what happened.
It was kind of an interesting family dinner, and we took my pup out in the backyard and saw what turned out to be a big dog running out in the lake. It was in April, and I thought it was a young bear because it went out in the lake and swam straight toward the islands and kept swimming and didn't stop. So it was a little bit different than what we're used to seeing on Lake Nipissing. And then a little bit later we saw 2 people go out in a canoe and realized that it wasn't a bear, it must have been their dog, and they were about 1 kilometer offshore, and watched the canoe capsize. By this point we got interested in what was happening out there and got binoculars, and we were watching them from the beach and saw them flip out of the canoe and realized that there was problems. And it was the water was cold enough that it wasn't going to be that good for them. And so Brendan grabbed the canoe and ran out in the lake with it, and I got life jackets and paddles and fleece and stuff, and we paddled out to get them.
And Brendan, what goes through your mind when you see 2 people capsize?
I just sort of had a huge shot of adrenaline. I just knew that we had to get out in the lake as fast as possible because they were in hypothermic conditions and they wouldn't last.
And are either of you guys trained in first aid or anything?
No, we've been in a canoe a lot, but no first aid.
Well, I've had first aid training, but that's not what was necessary. What was necessary was getting out in the canoe and getting those people out of the water. Get life jackets on them, get fleece blankets on them, and get them warm, because they were, the young lady in particular, she was quite tiny, and she wasn't going to make it too much longer in the cold water.
Sometimes you tend to walk away from these calls a different person. Sometimes filled with anger, sometimes filled with guilt, and sometimes not even knowing who you are anymore. My first 6 years as a paramedic were exhilarating. As a rookie, I wanted the exciting calls. I wanted to go to the stabbings and the shootings and the car wrecks and the multiple patients and the cardiac arrests. Routine transfers and emergency calls all played a very important part in my life, and I learned to develop a thick skin, so I thought. It was January 27th, 1988. It started off like any other day, routine calls and routine transfers, but it ended like no other. I remember every detail as though it happened yesterday. My partner and I were dispatched to a scene but had no idea what we were walking into. When we knocked on the door, we were met by a young police officer who was extremely shaken up. And his only words to me were, "She's in the bedroom." It took me 12 years to realize that I couldn't have saved her, but the guilt remains. Once a beautiful, thriving young career woman, Tema Contra was suddenly gone. And there was nothing I could do about it. But I was supposed to be a hero. I was trained to save lives. And what I did know was that I was about to embark on a journey that many of us travel, but we refuse to talk about. I went home that day and cried uncontrollably. I was scared. Tema was the victim of a random act of violence, and I feared that my wife would be that next victim. As my fear turned into paranoia, my marriage began to crumble. But my wife knew I needed help. Somehow the wives always know. And it was her ultimatum that saved our relationship and ultimately saved me. When you work in emergency services, the public perceives you to be a certain way. Their expectation is that we're always in control, that we're never afraid, and that we're miracle workers. When they call 911, they expect us to be their saviors. But sometimes we fail, and sometimes we hurt, and sometimes we cry. But God forbid we ask for help. How dare we admit that we may be the ones with the problem? It's easier to pretend that the problem doesn't exist than to confront the demons living inside of us. But I want you to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. We have the ability to change this reality, the reality of PTSD in emergency services. We need to begin a discussion amongst ourselves. We need to make asking for help okay. Asking for help is not a weakness, and asking for help should be the norm. I founded the Tema Contra Memorial Trust to keep Tema's memory alive, but also to give those men and women in uniform the help that they need and the permission to ask for it when they need it. Education won't help prevent PTSD, but if we can recognize the signs and symptoms of these psychological stressors, the more likely we are to see them as being normal, and the more likely we are to seek assistance if it happens to us. We need to get rid of the stigma that asking for help is a negative thing. We owe it to our families and we owe it to ourselves to make sure that we stay healthy, both physically and mentally. I'm no longer working as a paramedic, but I still remember how it felt to wear that uniform. For me, my uniform was a coat of armor. When I had it on, I felt invincible. I felt that I was able to handle anything the world threw at me. But when that uniform came off, I realized that it was just me. I wasn't a hero, I was just human. And so are you. Thank you.